chance, would you read my letter if I had its length? If I wrote you a letter now, would I have a chance? If I wrote you a letter now, would it even be late? If I wrote you a letter now, if I wrote you a letter, a letter, a letter. You hear the sound. We're the revolution. We're the revolution. With the ground beneath your feet, with a whisper in the trees. Do you feel us watching? Hunger in our eyes, victories on our minds. It's our time to rise. Can you hear the sound? Can't stop us now. We're not backing down on what we're doing. Things are about to change, it's evolution. Voices shake the ground, you feel it moving. We're the revolution. Can you hear the sound? We're the revolution. We're not backing down on what we're doing. Things are about to change, it's evolution. Voices shake the ground, you feel it moving. We're the revolution.
And welcome everybody to the third race of Season 3 of Bez Racing Team. We are so happy to have you here. Finishing up practice, just a couple minutes to go. The drivers have just finished up their driver's briefing a couple minutes, and we have drivers hitting the track again. But close times on the board right now. Wouldn't you say, Reagan?
I definitely would say, Steven. Glad to have you back, by the way. Finally decided to show up to a race. I know you don't really care about this community the way that some of our commentators do, but appreciate you finally deciding to take time out of your busy day to come join us. Of course, joking here. We're always happy to have Steven back from his vacation. And Steven, how was that vacation?
It was very nice, very sunny, unlike what we are seeing here at Donington right now. I'm just peeling a little bit, still recovering from a little bit of a burn in the Bahamas, but we saw a shark. That was very exciting. Saw Joe Jonas at the airport. That was probably the highlight of the entire trip. But no, a very nice, I think, well-earned vacation. Was happy to step away for a little bit, at least from work. I was not happy to step away from Bez. I was sad to miss that spa race, but that spa race did give us some good old Victor boo. I don't know if you were able to hear that, but I did get the boo sound effect in for this race.
Oh, did you? I actually was not able to hear the boo. That is unfortunate. You know what? Let me pull up the stream myself, because I can't get enough of that good, smooth Victor boo.
It's good that you're pulling up the stream, because I also have a clip of something interesting that you said to me the other day that I wanted to share for our viewers. I hear the audio there in the background, so I'm going to go ahead and play what it was that you said to me.
I have an OnlyFans. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe.
Now, Reagan, what can you tell me about that statement?
What I can tell you is that is 100% factual. I do sell a variety of fans on there, from Dyson to the classic, cheap $20 fans you can buy at Superstore or whatever your local store is. So please come subscribe to my OnlyFans. We have many different fans there that I'm sure you'd be happy to see, alongside with some full frontal nudity.
Oh, excellent. Love that. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that
that's just for fun.
yeah, and that audio clip had no editing or tricks or anything in there. That was purely something that you had sent. Tortuga, I will absolutely send you a link to Reagan's OnlyFans. We will make sure that you have access to his entire fan warehouse emporium as well as his full frontal shots. I know I am a big, heavy tipper and subscriber to Reagan's OnlyFans.
Yes, and I do appreciate all of your support. Speaking of full frontal, let's get a dash cam footage going on here for Razvan McAvey. Currently in P7, and Steven, if we're looking at the timing boards here, things have started to spread out since beginning of practice, but we've got a lot of drivers very close together here. Oyston Brenham and Hamling are both starting to separate themselves a little bit into the 31s, 31.685 for Brenham and a 31.852 for Hamling. But we have many drivers in the 32s. Actually, I take that back because we've gotten even more separation from the drivers. Eli Poe, Murray, and Nordell kind of in that second tier right now, doing 32.2, 32.5s. And finally, I can make a true statement here. It is position 6 to position, I believe that is all the way down to position, holy crap, we're going all the way down to position 13. We have these drivers separated by only about 4/10. So even in these wet conditions, we're getting drivers very close together in the practice session. And just in time for us to switch over to 30 minutes of qualifying.
Absolutely, yeah. Something you and I were talking about earlier, Reagan. We were seeing it was positions 1 through 8 and 9 through 16 all were very close. We saw a little bit more differentiation as that session went on. We saw Hamling and Brenham able to find a little bit more time, dipping into the 31s. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to find that little bit more here in qualifying. We are doing another split qualifying. I believe it's going to be 15 minutes and 15 minutes for our drivers here. Actually, it might be 10-10-10. I don't see any silver drivers coming out on track yet.
It is, I can confirm, it is AMs only. That is going to be a 10-10-10. And what's interesting, if and I don't believe you'll be able to pick this up on stream, but in 10 minutes, we're actually going to see the rain slightly increasing. So it's currently a greasy track right now as we have our AMs out on track. Small group of AMs today, only 3 drivers, 2 of them on track right now. One of them taking their time to get the setup right, I imagine. So with only 3 drivers in the AM class out there, we're only going to see 3 drivers benefiting from this greasy track condition. We may see for the silver drivers and the pros it going up to a damp track or higher, which could cause some shenanigans on this starting grid, depending on just how extreme the condition change is. It could be very fun to see some mixed conditions. And yes, we do, now that I have switched back to the stream view, we do have weather conditions on screen. Thank you for that beautiful graphic, Stephen. I'm sure you had that prepared long before the stream actually started.
I did, yeah. The animation, everything set up just accordingly, so we could highlight the weather conditions that we knew would be mixed.
Absolutely beautiful. As we see Bryce Prevost on his first fast lap, Ben Fiore has just started his first fast lap as well. So we're getting some drivers on track. We have more important things to focus on than the weather now, Stephen. Come on, stop being such an amateur.
What, an amateur like these drivers?
I guess you spend too much time in the Bahamas, not enough time practicing your commentary skills.
I was going to say, I feel like that's from spending too much time with you.
Yeah, that does. I do seem to have that effect on people. People get so just distracted by my presence that they seem to forget what they're supposed to be doing, which is commentating on this race, Stephen.
Exactly. Bryce up to Timing, I think, is a little bit wonky right now. We see him with a 14:52 on the board. Ben Fiore is still down in P21 with a 7:42.
Yes, and we
Um,
do just see Prevost going off track on his first fast lap, so he's going to have to get around to start up for another one. So still plenty of time for him to get in a couple good laps. But Ben Fiore, with a purple lap of 7:42, I think he is about to improve on that. I'd have to hope so.
I would sure hope.
We will see what happens as he comes around the Goddard's corner, the final turn of this track, and we'll have to see what his time is. This will be the first official time on the board of a 1 minute 34 second 5:37 milliseconds for Ben Fiore. Decent starting lap for him.
Absolutely. You did say it's plenty of time, but with only 5 minutes 51 left, with the pace that Fiore is at right now, he'll only get I believe 3 more laps by the time their time expires. He'll just miss out on being able to get a fourth in there. So really, I mean, it's something we talked about. I think you and Victor did at Spa. Well, no, not at Spa because every driver had the full 30 minutes, right? But definitely at Laguna with that 10-10-10. The pressure is definitely still there. And of course, with these tricky conditions, of course, they had a 45-minute practice session, but the track conditions can still change as we see Ben Fiore go off. It's really hard to navigate in the moment, corner by corner, what the track conditions are going to be like and how much speed, how much grip you'll be able to take in there and how to maximize that car.
That's a very good point. And with only 3 drivers on track at the moment, we're not going to see the rain clearing off of the track. There's just not enough tires down to be clearing off some of the rain that's accumulating on the track, which means that these drivers, yes, are sort of at the whim of nature right now, just hoping that these conditions don't get worse. Which they certainly will be, and it definitely adds a little bit more pressure to the mix here. Where if you, especially for these drivers like Bryce Prevost, who set an invalid first lap, as I believe we see him coming down for a 34.5, which puts him squarely in second place. Peters with a very nice 33.69 on his first fast lap. But yes, as we see Prevost have a bit of a moment, nothing he can't control though. Without really knowing when the rain is going to pick up, you never know when's going to be your last chance to actually set a fast lap. Because as soon as you get into a groove, if the rain starts coming down harder, if the track's even more wet than it was before, it doesn't matter how good you drive. Sometimes the track's just not going to be acclimatized or in a position for you to be able to set a faster lap. So these drivers definitely want to make the most of the time they have. Ben Fiore looks like he went back into the pits. He's coming out on fresh tires with 3 minutes 36 seconds. He's going to have time only for 1 out lap and 1 fast lap, so he's going to need to make it count.
Yeah, my guess would be Fiore wasn't as concerned about tire wear as he might have been about pressures. That is also something that is very difficult to gauge in this simulator, based on the amount of rain, the track temperature, everything like that. That all plays into how you set your tire pressures. For the wet tires, you're going to be hoping for in between 30 to 31 psi on each tire. But of course, if the pressures were too high or too low, based on what Ben was able to calculate in practice, he might have been, struggling for grip or having a slidey car. So my guess would be he went into the pit just to change some of those pressures around and try and get a better grip on that Bentley.
Certainly could be the case. Definitely Bentley, and I believe it is a decent car in the wet. But setting up the car for the wet is definitely a tricky endeavor. We see Bryce Prevost maybe not putting enough downforce on his car for the conditions. So he goes off yet again. Definitely a tricky track, a track that isn't driven a lot, and it's a track that drivers may not be as familiar with as some of the more popular tracks on the calendar. So to be able to come in and drive a track that you don't know very well in these tricky conditions, definitely hard to get the setup right, hard to get your feet right for a full hour, and even just the full 2 minutes or 1:30 of your qualifying lap.
Most definitely. Ben Fiore just crossed the line 24 seconds ago, just about. So with that, I think he actually will be able to sneak in 2 qualifying laps, as we'll be having to see what he's able to do. Currently, Peters is improving a little bit. It shows that he's purple, but at the moment, just matching his best. He's been showing some flashes of getting some time off the board there, but currently not able to maximize on that. Bryce currently 2.9 down on his best. He's on an invalid. He's just setting up for his final lap of qualifying here. As we see some silver drivers in the pits, Rip Roaring ready to go, making the most of these conditions as soon as their time starts.
Yes, well, again, we're expecting the rain to pick up just about any minute now, so these silver drivers are going to want to be getting out onto track ASAP, setting a lap as quickly as possible to try to maximize the amount of grip they have on their at least first fast lap before these conditions get a little worse. Track times drop even more, and their chances of improving their times drop with it. Kurt Peters currently 0.3 up on his best lap, somewhere around 0.2 to 0.3. So he's looking like he might be able to improve slightly again on his last lap. Just on board with him now. Coming around the final turn, he is about 0.3 up, and that is an improvement to 133.38. I think he can be pretty happy with that time, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Considering that was definitely what we were seeing from some of our. Ooh, I guess he wasn't concerned about trying to improve. He gets on the curbing a little bit there, loses the rear end. Yeah, I think based on what we saw not qualifying, in practice, a 33.3 definitely seems respectable. Puts him quite a ways away from the other 2 AM drivers here today. So I think he could definitely feel good about that for the next 20 minutes.
Certainly agree. Ben Fiore, the last of the AM drivers on a fast lap right now. He is 0.1 seconds up on his best. Currently, that is not going to be enough to improve his position. He's going to need to find a lot of time in Sector 3 if he wants to be moving up into one of the top positions for the AM class. We're also now seeing the silver drivers on their out laps. Again, we see a lot of drivers trying to get out there as quickly as possible to avoid the increase in rain. Ben currently 0.4 up on his time, so 0.5,
I think he's
0.6.
It, yeah.
Okay. This
yeah.
might just be something for Ben Fiore, and it is. Ben Fiore jumps Bryce Prevost with a 133.8, a very nice lap time for him, which puts him second place in the AM class, and that is going to be it for his qualifying.
Absolutely. So we see each of the AM drivers separated by about half a second each, a 33.3 for Peters, a 33.8 for Fiore, and a 34.3 for Bryce Prevost. Very nice qualifying there. Drivers in the silver class are starting to bunch up towards the end of the lap. I think Magnus Hakaba was just trying to get around another fellow Audi. But goes off track trying to go wide and maximize the straight line speed there. So that is definitely not how you want to start the lap. And now he's going to be looking side by side with Paul Krabs. Definitely not the best way to maximize your first qualifying lap.
No, you never want to be fighting with another driver down to turn 1 of your qualifying laps. Nobody has ever gone faster side by side with another car. It's losing time for both drivers. I'm sure Paul Krabs is not going to be happy having to deal with that. As we see Charlie Thornton, catches the little bit too much curbing. As we see Haukeba now gets past him once more, and Paul Krabs not too far ahead. That is a lost lap for Charlie Thornton. I believe a new driver in the league, if I'm not mistaken. This is his first race with us, so welcome, Charlie.
Yeah, I think was just maybe joining us last night. So yeah, definitely a new driver, but already up into silvers. Seems to have a little bit of pace, just needs to keep the car on the track as we have, just about over 7 minutes left in our qualifying session. As we see Paul Krabs going off the grass, I believe that's after the S's. So losing that bright orange and yellow McLaren through there. He is also going back into the pits, I would assume, as we talked about before, maybe managing some of those pressures, trying to get a better handle on that car. Any driver standing out to you right now, Reagan?
It's hard for a driver to stand out when we haven't seen a valid lap on the board yet. I believe we've now seen our first with Magnus Haukeba at a 34.8 and Razvan McAvey up into first place overall with a 133.27. So now I guess we can say that Razvan McAvey is standing out, considering he's the only driver who's actually set a decent lap time so far of these silver drivers. Although we are now finally, as more drivers start to peter in, we're getting some faster laps. We've got Jorge Esteban at a 133 flat, currently in first place. We've got Kurt Peters in third place still with his 133.38, just in front of Gary Bosman, who is in fourth place with the 133.582. So still a lot of drivers left to set fast laps. I believe we've got two, three, four of our silver drivers yet to set a time, if I am counting correctly. So lots of time left, or I should say lots of time left to be found for many of these drivers. We do have Nate Byrne at a 139.7, very clearly not as fast as he is able to go. We're already seeing him almost 3 seconds up on that time, so big improvements coming for many of our drivers. Magnus Haukeba, he's up by 0.7, Richard Laird up 0.6. Stephen, you mind bringing up our deltas so we can follow along with these fantastic drivers pushing themselves to the limits?
Absolutely. Let me figure out. I believe that is this.
It sure is.
That looks right.
That definitely does look right. Thank you, Stephen.
Of course. And so that's the deltas to their best lap personally, not the delta to the current pole time set by Jorge Esteban.
You are absolutely correct. That is Nate Byrne has finally set a fast time for himself. That's a 33.7. Very nice lap for him. Gary Bosman just coming down to start another lap. One thing we haven't talked about yet, and we kind of saw it there with Gary.
There's an Audi going off there, I believe.
That is Thornton.
Thornton again. So really not liking, I believe that is the old hairpin on the exit there. He's really losing the rear end of that Audi, it seems.
Yes, it is definitely a tricky track, a tricky part of the track as well. As we see Richard Laird just going in a little too hard. The Porsche has good brakes, but maybe not that good. He's asking more than that car can handle, and he is now off track, coming back on behind Paul Krobs. He's going to need to get those tires back into their optimal temperatures and get himself onto a new lap. But going back to what I was saying, and we saw it a little bit with Gary Bosman's brief on board, the pit exit on Donington, one of the, I would say, one of the scariest pits to exit in the entire game. Pit exit goes directly onto the racing line of turn one, and more so, in fact, I would even say rather than going onto the line like a track such as Paul Ricard, it's actually going directly into the braking point, or the braking zone of turn one. In the dry, and I'm not as confident to say this in the wet, but in the dry, drivers are actually going off into and you will see it here, drivers are going basically over the white lines of the pit exit in order to open up turn one. So if you're a driver coming out of the pits, if you're not careful, and if the driver behind the driver on the track is not careful, it could spell disaster. So hopefully we weren't in the driver's briefing. Hopefully this was touched on. Hopefully these drivers know to be careful coming out of those pits. And if they're coming into that turn, as we see Gary Bosman catching a little bit more curb than he'd like, and that ruins his lap. Hopefully these drivers are able to keep it clean in turn one and not have any crazy incidents that ruin a race.
Absolutely. Richard Laird currently up just about half a second. That delta is fluctuating a little bit up and down, but he consistently seems to be finding a couple hundredths at this point of the track. That is him heading down to the S's. So we'll have to make sure he can nail it here. We saw him have an off-track excursion that looks... I was going to say that looked valid, but definitely got a little bit squirrely with the rear end of that Porsche. Lost about a tenth or two. Coming down into the Melbourne hairpin, loses a lot of time on entry, but really makes it
all back.
a good exit. Yeah, So looking about 6 tenths. We'll have to see how he handles Goddard's. Taking a nice tight line through there. Pretty clean. Not his best overall, but an improvement of about 3 tenths. Puts him P8. Very nice from Richard Laird.
Yes, very nice for him indeed. That sector 3 with the two heavy braking zones, one of the toughest sections to get right, I would say, one of the toughest sectors in all of ACC. It's two, as I mentioned, very strong braking zones, and we will be going through a track overview after qualifying before the race, where we'll go over the turns in more detail. But for now, it's a very tough two braking zones. Very hard to get the car rotated quickly, and it's definitely a place where you can make or break your lap. Along with the S's, the very difficult chicane that these drivers need to be taking a little bit of curb in the wet. How much curb they're willing to take is definitely going to influence in a big way their final lap times in this qualifying session.
Absolutely, and I think we see a new pole sitter, Magnus Alcaba, up almost 7 tenths ahead of Jorge Esteban. That's recent, right? I don't remember seeing him at the top.
That must be, and let me take a look here. Magnus Alcaba, last lap of 32.55, so it actually is not his most recent lap. His most recent lap, his most recent lap, it says is a 32.355. His best lap and his most recent lap is a 32.557. So we did miss that indeed. So very good stuff for Magnus that's going on just in the background as we squabble about whatever's going on Donington, as we see him now coming along. This is Nate Byrne now taking turn one. Very nicely there. It's a turn you have to be patient on. Again, something we'll sure be talking about in the pole lap that Stephen will eventually be going over. But you definitely have to be patient in turn one in order to get the car rotated enough to stay on track.
Absolutely. We had Paul Krabs up a little bit. He's under a yellow now, so I think he went off track. That is going to be the end of his qualifying. Magnus was up about 2 tenths earlier, lost some of it. He's coming to the end of his lap. He is currently matching, between matching and being a tenth up on his best, so he is going to gets a little squirrely on the exit there. He is now losing time on his best, but making it up into Goddard's, the final corner. Goes a little bit deep, and I think loses that.
Yes, it looked like he, at least the delta had gone up as he broke a bit later than he wanted to, but of course, that time that he gained, he then lost not being on the apex. So that is the end of qualifying for Haukaba. It's going to be the end of qualifying for most of our silver drivers. We are now...
But Nate Byrne was up a little bit into that last corner.
Able to...
Lost it. I don't think he gets it. He was just about 800s off of his best there, so remains P7. And I believe he was the last of the silvers out on track.
I believe so as well. Now, one thing that's interesting, are we seeing Tyler Babin? Let's jump over. Okay, so now we are seeing these drivers coming out on track. A lot of drivers still in the pits right now. I'm not sure if all of the pros have come onto track yet. Maybe I'm just missing something. But it doesn't look like everyone has made it onto the track of the pro drivers. For sure, Jason Fauchard, and we see the yellow as he looks like caught a little bit of grass. We see Carl Nordell off in the distance as well. He was into the grass on his outlap, so maybe that's what we're seeing here. Drivers having trouble staying on track, even our fastest drivers.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at our the penalty sheet for Bez. It looks like Eli Poe has been disqualified from qualifying, so has Vigar Johansson. Rufo has been disqualified. Steve Poe has been disqualified. Howe has been disqualified. So it looks like a lot of the drivers that are still in the pits are in there because of disqualifications in qualifying due to incidents accumulated at our last race in Spa, as well as potentially some incident points garnered at Laguna as well.
So, and I would just like to correct you on one of those. How is not disqualified. That is, or Christian Comwar is the last to be disqualified in the of the 5 drivers. So it's Ruffo, Christian Comwar, Eli Poe, Steve Poe, and Vigard Johansson are the 5 drivers unable to participate in this qualifying session.
You said Christian has been disqualified?
Christian has been disqualified, according to my eyes. That's really all I can tell you. He is disqualified. He is in the pits.
Interesting. I wonder if that was given out now if he went out at a time he wasn't supposed to, because on the stewarding spreadsheet it shows that he has 4 behavioral warning points, but no pending qualifying disqualification.
Interesting.
So not sure what happened there for Christian, but we will potentially try and figure that out soon. I can maybe look at it when I'm trying to pull up the pole lap. I can try and see if he went out on track at a time that he wasn't supposed to.
That does sound good to me. We do now have our pro drivers on their fast laps on board or on camera is Ivan Watson, and I believe he is now coming through. He was on for a 32, and I think maybe I'm wrong. I just have not been paying enough attention. That's Tyler Babin with a 31.765, currently in the lead. We've got David Sparks at a 31.955, also in the 31s, and Sparks is even up 1 to 2 tenths on his best right now. So we might see him, depending on how well he comes along here, as he takes it very aggressively through turn. I believe that is turn 4. He might be in line for a very fast lap here if he can keep it together as well.
I think he might be pushing just a little bit too hard. He is now negative on his delta, or I guess positive on his delta, losing time, but making some up there. Both he and Babin seem to be just about matching their best overall. Brenham, though, is up about a tenth right now. Depending on how he finishes, he could sneak up into P2. Carl Nordell also finding close to half a second. And then we saw Hakuba currently in the pits. Hamling was just in the pits as well. So a lot of drivers, I'm really surprised, really trying to fiddle either with new tires or adjusting pressures, even in a 10-minute session. I thought even if they had issues with that, they would just try and power through, given how limited their running is in this qualifying today.
Yes, and very nice looking S's or chicane for Carl Nordell there. Again, very tricky to take those in the wet, but looks like he handled it pretty well. And now into that first heavy braking zone of turn 1. He's still up. It looks like he lost a little bit of time. It's 2 tenths now in the final braking zone. We have switched over to Tyler Babin. Carl Nordell finding a lot of time in the final turn. And that is going to be P6 now for Carl Nordell, a 32.54. So very nice lap for him.
And Marcus Murray just behind him sneaks into P4 with a 32.1. I believe he was sitting in P6 or P7 before that. So good to see him moving up. But yeah, still 4 tenths off of what Tyler was able to manage. I thought they would be quite a bit closer.
Yes, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, we've got Tyler at a 31.765.
Finding a lot of time.
Yes, up 3 tenths now. Tyler, a very fast driver, and of course the Porsche very good in the wet. So it's definitely a situation that Tyler's going to like here. Track conditions. Let's go take a look at our track conditions right now. The track is damp. So these drivers are setting their times on a damp track, whereas the AMs set them on greasy. I'm not sure exactly when the switchover happened in regards to the silver drivers, but regardless, we're seeing very fast time from our... Oh, and thank you, Victor. My mic is a little too high.
Yeah, I had already put you down a little bit, so go back to what you were before.
Okay, I'm back at where I was. Hopefully this is good now. You're not seeing me too high up. We'll see how this goes. Tyler Babin setting a beautiful 31.562. Really good lap from him. He's going to be, I'm imagining, quite happy with that time. He went back to the pits. He may have enough time, depending on if he's fast here, might have enough time to get on track for another lap. We do see Jason Fauchard in the background trying it, but these drivers are going to have to be fast. Tyler Babin just started his out lap. Fastest lap is a 31.5, and he left the pits at around 1 minute 35 seconds. So he's going to need to be very fast in his out lap if he wants to get another lap in.
And we have a commenter saying that their cat is trying to eat their phone anytime Tyler appears on the screen. So it looks like that bright yellow livery is definitely pretty eye-catching for some pets. I'm sure my cat would also try and attack that livery if it saw it on my phone. I closed the door so she doesn't come in and try and hop on the TV when Tyler's going around. But yeah, David Sparks looked to be contending earlier this lap for trying to steal P1, but lost some time through the rest of it. I think it might be just pushing a little bit too hard, trying to get that time, matches his best, unable to improve here, but with 41 seconds left. Oh, I was going to just say he had time, but I wonder if he didn't have the fuel or the confidence to finish out that lap. Marcus Murray coming into Goddard's, just about to round the final turn onto what is going to be his final attempt. We see Brenham up by just about a tenth. But yeah, really not too many drivers improving. I say that, and Hamling manages to find about 4/10 as I'm talking.
He did lose 2.5 of that immediately after, so maybe went a bit deeper on the brakes than he did on his last lap. As well, we do see Murray. He does have time for one more lap, and he is pushing it now. Currently down almost 4/10 though, so not as
that. He was going wide,
and there he goes.
Yep.
Onto the grass. That is it for Marcus Murray. Currently P5. I believe that is the worst qualifying performance for him if he stays in P5, which there is a chance for some of our drivers, though it doesn't look like a lot of them, to be able to improve. We're seeing red all across the timing boards. We've got Watson about a 10th down. We do have Hamling a 10th up, and we are on board. And
just as you say that,
there she blows. Hamling catching the curb, spinning around. He's gone. Tyler might be able to improve. You know, he's right in line with his current fastest lap. But yeah, these conditions clearly just damp. It hasn't switched over to wet, but these drivers clearly struggling with the grip here and struggling to find time. It's been, especially with only 10 minutes to set their qualifying times, it's been a very, very difficult qualifying session for these drivers. Victor giving the boo in chat. I don't even know what you're booing, but we all love it when you do it. So thank you, Victor, for your gracious boo.
Absolutely. I want to try and get a replay on Brenham here. Brenham going around. He showed yellow. He might have just finished his lap and then pulled over and returned to garage. Yep, that's exactly what it looks like.
What happened. Well, we've got a nice 8 seconds left to watch this beautiful replay. I hope you're all enjoying it. And back to live where everyone's already done. So not much new to watch here. Steven, why don't you bring us over to our track walk and while we're waiting for these drivers to figure out their conditions or their setups, figuring out the conditions, why don't we give our folks at home, the audience, a bit of a layout of the land here.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw that on for you. Just give me 1 second.
All right, and starting off with a quick track walk of Donington Park. Donington, one of the tracks in the British DLC. Coming up immediately to turn 1, that is Redgate turn. Very tricky turn. Want to be patient on the throttle there. Unnamed turn 2 before we take the Cranor curves right here into a quick braking zone into a very fast right-hander. Old hairpin, very hard to get right in the wet. Turn 5, taking Starkey's Bridge. I don't think there's actually a bridge. It's a misnomer. On to turn 7, McLean's over before another tricky turn, Coppice onto the back straight. Definitely want to get that right. A lot of time to be gained and lost on Starkey's straight. For the S's on turn 9 and 10, coming down into our first heavy braking zone, Melbourne Hairpin, and finally into our second heavy braking zone of Goddard's. And there we go. That is a quick lap of Donington Park. Before now, we're going to jump you over into a more detailed overview, watching in a first lap of our AI drivers here. As you can see, AOR fastest lap, 125.1. Not enough time to read what the fastest real lap was. We've got our drivers now coming down into Redgate. Again, a turn you want to be patient on. As you can see, even the computer has trouble getting this turn right, as we see a little bit of contact between these AI drivers. Into the full fast craner curves of turns 2 and 3. Before, again, you want to just be very punchy on the brakes for Old Hairpin, really carrying the speed through. Tough to do in the rain, but these drivers are going to need to do it if they want to be near the front. Coming up onto Starkey's Bridge here. Again, where is the bridge? What are the Brits doing when they're naming their turns? Before the nice heavy turning zone of McLean's, or a heavy braking zone. They do need to turn, but it's not quite heavy. Into, finally, again, a very tricky Coppice. You can see the drivers using the curve, even in the wet, trying to open up this turn and get onto the throttle early for Starkey's Straight. Before we come down into one of the trickiest parts of the track, the S's. Again, a misnomer. There's only one S. I don't know why they considered it plural. That's turn 9 and 10 there. Before coming down into the Melbourne Hairpin. Again, a very heavy braking zone. Definitely going to want to make sure our drivers are safe into turn on lap 1 here. It's a good overtaking opportunity if you get it right. It's also a good opportunity to create a big shunt, so be careful there. Finally, finishing off with Goddard's, and god darn it, that is a lap of Donington Circuit. Finishing off with Wheatcroft Straight, the end of the lap and the start of the lap. And that, as mentioned, is Donington. And I can tell you they are just starting the formation lap now, so just the back drivers on the grid have started moving. We've got plenty of time before the race fully gets underway. Currently in damp conditions. Looks like we're going to have damp conditions for the first 10 to 30 minutes of the race. It might turn over to wet after that. It does look like we're going to get a slight increase in rain, which will be very exciting. It should be very fun to see how these drivers are able to handle the wet conditions. Yes, it definitely will be. As you mentioned, Laguna Seca, we had two incidents, two separate, well, two incidents. One incident that split into two incidents just in turn one, and we had other incidents throughout the lap. Spa, as any of you who have seen the start of that race, it was an absolute disaster. The start of that race, we had, I believe, at least 10 drivers all either getting hit, hitting people. It was definitely a mess. As Victor would give a big boo to that start of the race. And don't worry, Victor, as we're coming up to the start line, hopefully we won't have to boo. We'll have to see how these drivers go once the lights go green. And I believe, there we go. Lights have gone green, and our drivers are coming down into turn one, hoping for some safety here. Tyler with a good lead, Sparks behind, Brenham slotting into third, and there it is. We already see Magnus Helkeba and Marcus Murray off track. I believe those might be the only two drivers, but we do. There's Kenji Tan I see off. That's Paul Krobs off. I believe Charlie Thornton might have gone off there. That's another wow. It's I'm not gonna give the biggest boo because there were no horrible incidents so far. I'm thinking all of those looked like individual incidents, no big shunts, just people going off in the wet. Hopefully, I'm right about that. We'll have to see how correct I am. But at least for now, we've got Sparks in the lead. Tyler Babin losing first place. May have made a mistake off screen. Oysten Brenham right on his heels in the Lamborghini. We've got Hamling and Nordell finishing off that top five. So far, things seem pretty clean near the front. Marcus Murray was one of the only drivers to go off. Marcus still just looking for that one clean race. He is dropped, and I'm still looking for him on the board. Oh no, and we have Sparks spins out, and Tyler hitting him. Not enough time to slow down, so even more craziness going on at the front of the grid now. Let's get back on board here. This is Sparks in Goddard's corner that we're coming up to, that I believe may have just carried a bit too much speed into it in the wet. Let's see exactly what happened here. So Tyler laid on the brakes. So no, there was no spin by Sparks. Sparks just carrying a lot less speed through the turn than Tyler Babin. Babin carrying a lot of speed. I guess was not expecting the difference in speed to mean that much. And he runs into the back of Sparks. So we can see Tyler slowed down, was waiting for waiting for Sparks to get back to speed. But that is an unfortunate incident for Tyler Babin, and more so an unfortunate incident for Sparks. Oh, Tyler with another, this time a spin. A terrible start of the race for him. What does happen? Oh, that is really unfortunate for him. That was Coppice corner. He gets on the inside curb, accelerates too hard, waits to get himself back up to speed as we see Darren Chan and Steve Poe, I believe, or is that just Steve Poe? Ben Fiore and Steve Poe. And now we see Ferrari spinning around. We also have Kenji. He's showing orange. We've got Christian Comwar slow. Lots. Yes, there he is. Christian Comare showing slow. Kenji's still showing slow. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with him, so it looks like maybe that was not correct. Very, very exciting start to this race. Scary stuff all around. Lots of spins again. No huge shunts, which is always nice. But these drivers definitely are winning or losing positions just by being able to stay on track right now. Pace is secondary to just keeping your foot right. And Steve O. We also have Jason Fauchard. While this replay is running, Fauchard has lost some positions. Jorge Esteban has lost a position, although it looks like for once that might have actually been due to an on-track overtake, a rarity at the start of this race so far.
Mikey, no, Mikey, that was so not right.
You see there, off the track, trying to get out of the gravel in the wets. And not a good start for him either. So lots of drivers having difficulties in these conditions. He's back on track. I believe we are back to live now. And we're on board with Ivan Watson, who's also had a pretty solid start to the race. I think he has already gone off once, if I remember, just from the background. But he is up in 8th place, so pretty solid for him. Battling right now with Jorge Esteban for 9th. And that is really too bad. And Tyler Babin, I thought I might have seen that. Tyler Babin off one more time. Where is Tyler? Oh, he's gone. 2 drivers already out of this race. We are maybe 3 laps in. This is, I mean, we knew these conditions were going to be tricky, and the drivers just, some drivers just having some bad luck. Some drivers just not ready for the conditions. It's definitely been a tricky race, but something we've seen a lot of this year. Oyston Brenham up into 1st place with his brand new livery. Definitely is. We've got Brenham in first place, as you mentioned, not necessarily the fastest driver. Certainly, as we see, that is Sparks that is everyone. We see yellows all across the board. That is, yeah, I think we're gonna have to reset our connection to the server. Hopefully, nothing happened to the drivers. Hopefully, that is just a broadcasting issue. Let's hope so. And we're back, and no, everyone has not died from this race. So let's,
No, Mikey, no, Mikey, that
get
was
back
so
up
not
to
right.
speed here. Get back into this broadcast. That is, yes, Brenham in first place, Hamling in second. Hamling currently behind Nordell in the standings by, I believe that is 9 points. Hamling fourth place with Tyler Babin in fifth, although he is unfortunately going to drop after this DNF. So that does open up an opportunity for many of our drivers to maybe sneak in to that top 5. On board with Leo Osmond. So Leo, one driver, I don't remember seeing his name in the disqualifications, but another driver who had to start from the back, currently in 23rd place after, I believe what we're going to see here is, if I'm not mistaken, a bit of a spin. It looks like that's going to be the case. It may just be our broadcasting software getting itself back into back up to speed. Bryce Prevost, if I'm correct, no, he is second place in AM. That is Ben Fiore, who's just gotten past. Gary Bosman is fighting with Ben Fiore right now through that first hairpin. Looks like a fun fight here between Schneider, Bosman, and Fiore, all going into Goddard's corner, and we'll see if they're able to keep their wits about them. Richard Laird deciding to go into the pits, the first driver to do so. Very surprising decision from him, as we still have over an hour left in this race. May have got some damage in a prior incident, which forced his hand. So he's going to have to go long on his second set of tires if he wants to if he wants to find a way to hold position or to get some points in this race.
Yeah. I'm a professional broadcaster when I just realized all this time has passed on the race. I was muted on Twitch Studio, so you have been able to hear me on Discord, Reagan. I don't think any of our viewers have been able to hear me for quite some time. I think I might have muted myself when you were doing the track walk, so even when we were on board with Tyler's pole lap, I think they were just watching and pleasantly enjoying a nice quiet lap with Tyler. I don't think they were able to hear any of what I was saying, so that's phenomenal. Wow. That's top tier broadcasting brought to you by Bez Racing Team.
And gonna interrupt you. Speaking of top tier driving, we've got Christian Comare off the track. I'm sure our viewers were happy to have you muted, at least for a little while. I unfortunately had to hear your blabbering, but they got to hear only my smooth voice. I'm sure they were all very appreciative of that. Christian down into 24th place now. Currently have 25 drivers left in this race, so already some attrition going on. Victor commending our professional work, and I commend your professional viewership for not letting us know. So you know what, Victor? Boo!
I booed you a few times when you said the viewers were happy to have me muted. I got to press that button a few times, and it did feel good. I can say that.
I'm very happy for you. I've got the stream muted, so I can't hear whatever buttons you press. So clearly, as we're all ready to go, we've got a disappointed driver in the chat. Very sorry to hear that. Not sure which driver that is, but sorry to hear that you've had a rough race so far. Looking and I think we can make a mention of Razvan McAvey, currently in P5, first in the silver class, and a driver that we haven't heard much from today so far, which is obviously going to be a good thing for him because any driver we've mentioned so far has been mentioned because they've spun. So we're seeing now Kurt Peters and Kenji Tan in a fight, and it looks like Peters is able to get the best of him. And very nice move for him just before that first hairpin. The hairpin I never remember the name of. Let's go take a look. That is Melbourne hairpin before Goddard's hairpin. And yes, sorry to hear that, Jason. Jason, I'm imagining if you're in chat, you're probably out of this race. So that's a third driver known that has dropped out. So quite a bit of attrition already. Just 8 laps in, 15 minutes into an hour, 15-minute race.
Yeah, I was just trying to take a look at, we were just looking at Kurt Peters and Kenji Tan. Right now, Kenji's fastest lap is about a second faster than what Peters was able to do. Was even about 2.5 times faster that last lap. So I think Kenji might just be getting held up and isn't able to find a way past Peters. So we'll have to maybe keep an eye on that. It looks like Kenji has the pace, just needs to figure out the right spot to get around Mr. Peters.
Yes, definitely tricky to pass on Donington, tricky to pass in the rain. I shouldn't say tricky to pass in Donington. It's certainly not the worst track to pass on, but in the rain it's always more difficult to get that traction, to be able to make a move. Speaking of traction, I think we've got, I believe that is Vigard Johansson who's had a bit of a moment. He's now lost 2 positions. Marcus Murray back up to 11th, Ruffo into 12th. So Murray, after that terrible start, starting to repeat ourselves here after Spa, but he is now surging up the field, back into 11th, and he's going to be pushing into those top positions if he has his way by the time we get to our pit stops, as he had quite a bit of pace. I believe he qualified 5th. So still some drivers who, for once, I would say, are actually able to compete with him on raw pace. The rain, known as the great equalizer, and for good reason. So Murray, I should say, won't have as easy a time making his way into those top positions in these conditions. He'll have to work for it here.
Absolutely. We were looking at Kenji and Kurt Peters before. Kenji now just about 2 seconds ahead of Kurt Peters, so was able to find his way around Peters on that last lap. We have seen a yellow flag from Leo Alsman. He's back up and running. Charlie Thornton currently under a yellow flag as well. So towards the back of the grid, some exciting action, but also some unfortunate action, as it looks like a couple drivers still spinning and coming to grips with this damp track.
Yes, and as Jason mentioned in chat, starting on dry tires. So I wonder if I just do a quick run through. We've got, if I'm looking at this correctly, we've got Richard Laird on dry tires. We've got many drivers on wets. Majority of drivers are on wets, but we do have Jorge Esteban in 8th place. He's on dry tires. Anyone else? Ben Fiore, he's on dry tires. So a couple drivers are able to make their way on this track. It looks like this track, and Richard Laird, actually, Richard, if I'm not mistaken, was the first driver to pit. So he's planning on taking dry tires all the way to the end, if I've read this correctly. That is very interesting. We will have to see how that strategy pays off. It looks like the track's currently right on the cusp, where dry tires and wet tires both viable options. But at some point, if the rain does pick up, that's going to change very quickly. We're on board with Ben Fiore, who's on the dry tires, and he's able to make it past Dan Schneider. But then with those tires, he loses the grip, loses speed. Now side by side with Dan Schneider, and Dan, with a very nice re-overtake, Gary Bosman able to take advantage as well. That was Ben pushed maybe a little wide, but certainly not wide enough to be dangerous. I would say that is a nice overtake from Schneider, and a nice move from Bosman as well. Although we do have Fiore right on the heels of Bosman with those dry tires, going to be able to get more more potential top speed on the straights. So we'll have to see
Yep.
what happens with that fight.
I'm just stealing us over to Murray and Byrne. They have been side by side, swapping places for the last couple corners. It looks like Murray has been able to solidify, getting himself up into P10. Byrne has fallen back by half a second now. So keeping an eye on those two drivers. But Murray continuing his fight up. His next target, Hakubo, 8.5 seconds up the road.
Big deficit to make up. As well, Nate Byrne, I believe, was one of the top qualifying silver drivers, so certainly no slouch in the rain. Definitely a big fight there, and we might see Byrne making up some spots, just trying to keep on the back of Murray for as long as possible. Up with Hamling right now, who's got Sparks right on the back of him. Again, and we see Razvan McAvey.
Going slow,
McAvey has been going slow. Let's jump over to him. Not sure what happened, but he's now lost a position to Eli Poe, who's in
Let
fifth
me
place.
try and get a replay up on here.
So this is on board with McAvey.
Approaching Coppice, I believe that is.
And let's see what happens to him if we're able to catch it in this replay. Looks like just a bad exit out of Coppice, and Eli Poe able to take advantage. McAvey getting on the throttle too early, going wide, and having to release, which you really don't want to do on that turn. So just simply a nice move by Poe, being patient and finding a way past.
Interesting. Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was a bad exit or if he lifted off. Eli Poe, his best is about 7 or 8 tenths faster than what McAvey can do. So maybe Poe had just been hounding McAvey for too long, and McAvey just said, you know what? I'll let you go by. Won't fight it too much. But Hamling definitely not of that same mentality. He's definitely going to be fighting David Sparks tooth and nail.
I crashed.
Hello?
Hello? Hey, that is Leo Osmond.
I crashed. Quite hard.
Oh, that is too bad to hear. We've got a lot of drivers crashing in these conditions.
It was my own fault. I'd done no practice on this track, and I didn't even expect it. I literally made it within 30 seconds of finding out we're going to start. I made it on the formation up, as you saw.
Well, Donington, not a track that gets a lot of driving time. So, and we've been talking about this on stream. A lot of drivers we're imagining coming in with less practice, especially in wet conditions, than they might like, and certainly could have been one of the reasons we've seen so many spins so early in the race.
I didn't even try and. I knew I wasn't going to make the race. Wasn't actually expecting to make the race. So I drove around for a bit, and it didn't really, as you saw, very well. Crashed in the left-right chicane, and so far down the grid, I just thought, not much point.
Oh, we are sorry to hear that. Gary Bosman close to Schneider here.
That is a good battle, actually. I do admit.
We've
I
seen
tried my best.
Hakuba also right up on Jorge, and Sparks close again to Hamlin. Hakuba shows that he's going slow.
He certainly does. May have just had to brake early because he's right on the back of Jorge Esteban. I'm thinking maybe he just had to brake early to avoid any sort of incident. And like you mentioned, right on the back of him. And let's see if we can take a quick look here. Last lap for these two drivers. I'm not sure if I can bring it up with my control, but we do have a 33.7 for Jorge Esteban, a 33.35 for Magnus Hakuba. So Hakuba with a little more pace at the moment. Not sure if that pace is going to translate into an overtake, but for Hakuba, he's certainly hoping it will.
Absolutely. I'm just playing around with some of the information showing. Unfortunately, can't show the last lap besides what we see on the bottom here, but maybe we can get a comparison. Did we go away from...
and that's Dan Schneider. That is Bosman and Schneider, who have both spun off at the same time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's... not what I wanted to do there. Oh, come on. I messed up and I hit the wrong button. That's what happened there.
Jeez. So Bosman trying to take the inside, looks like with maybe a little too much speed. And that is Bosman and Schneider going off. Bosman waiting for Schneider to take the position back. He understands what happened there. So unfortunate for both of these drivers. As Leo mentioned, this was looking like a good fight, and good on Bosman to give the spot back and get back to racing.
That is very sportsmanlike. That is. I expect nothing less from him. He's a very fair guy.
Or David Sparks still right on the back of Hamling.
I think,
Putting
the pressure on.
Oh, he's trying to make a move work into Melbourne. Finally remembered it for once, but loses a bit of time on exit. Looks like Hamling was able to get his foot down better, and still Sparks not able to find a way past. Looking at their last laps, they're almost identical on pace. See what happens as they cross the line here. So that's a 33-1. Again, these drivers only maybe half a hundredth off of each other right now. Very close driving. Getting past a back marker here, it looks like. The first back marker, I believe that is Christian Comaray. So very close driving from them. That continues. We're going to have to see when Hamling's able to make a move.
You can assume from Hamling's he's quick. I've raced against him in season 2, I think it was.
Up and over as well. We've got Gary Bosman back on the rear of Schneider. And it looks like he wants to make a move into the S's here. Sorry, not the S's, into Melbourne himself. Thinks better of it. He's now got Ben Fiore right on the back of him. So this is turning into a three-way battle. And all three drivers in a very vulnerable position. We're going to jump back here to see if he's able to make a move. Looks like Ben only a second back. Bosman still right on Schneider. And not enough jump out of the corner to make anything work there.
And I was going to say, we've been looking at the battle between Hamling and Sparks for so long, but neglected to mention that Hamling, with all this pace, is only 1.3 behind Brenham. So Brenham, in the past couple races, when he's been in the lead, has been able to pull out a gap, but Hamling and Sparks really keeping close to P1. They are very much still in the fight for the lead.
Yes, and in a race where we've seen big accidents, big incidents be the defining characteristic for our current grid, these three drivers all, again, staying consistent, staying clean. We've seen Hamling staying in front of Sparks for most of the race since it started. You see Jorge Esteban is one of the first drivers to go into the pits. Richard Laird went in very early on, and now Esteban, maybe 10 minutes later, is the second driver. But yes, Brenham now getting some pressure, as you mentioned, behind from Hamling, and Hamling's had pressure from Sparks all race, and then a big jump there to Carl Nordell. Again, I want to say he's having a quiet race, but now he's got pressure from Poe behind, Poe staying around a second behind, so for once, maybe we won't be saying that Brenham and Nordell are having quiet races. Maybe we'll get to see the racecraft come out more than their pace.
Maybe. Some positions changing up and down between 15 and 19. That's Jorge into the pit.
Into the pit as well. Yes, he's currently stationary. Losing positions. We have Johansson as well, flashing yellow. He's losing a bunch of time. Must have gone off. Haven't jumped over to him yet. But there we are. Over on him, and we'll see what happened. Currently on replay. See why he spun off. It looks like he's on the curbs. He's taking these curbs quite confidently.
I've got to admit, for that car, it's quite unstable.
Coming up, I believe that is...
No.
Catches some oversteer.
No. He caught a freeze.
He did catch a freeze. That was a very weird freeze in Coppa's corner.
And that was still the replay, so I really don't know. Wait, he's gone now, right?
He's gone.
No.
So really not sure what happened.
No, he's here.
But we were on with Johansson. Johansson's gone.
Oh, Johansson's gone. Johansson is gone. Wow. Well, that is really unfortunate for him. Must have been a connection issue for Johansson, who is now out of this race. Maybe he's able to get himself back connected, but even so, he would have to sit in the pits for at least 2-3 minutes. So that might be the end of his race. Really sad to see.
My guess would be is we saw the freeze on the replay, and then his car got going. I wonder if while he was frozen, the game threw his car into the wall. When he regained control, I wonder if he saw that he had a ton of damage and then just decided to call it quits from that point on, just blaming a connection issue. That would be my guess.
I have heard of issues from
Very well, might be right. Jumping over here as Macy, yes, and we do have confirmation Johansson lost connection. Macy originally looks like got a move down on Esteban, but then moved out of the way to get out of the way. Oh no! And who was that? Who was now spun out?
Macy again.
Macy spinning out while letting some of the front runners go. He was originally in a fight with Jorge Esteban. That fight is now done for the next little while. Jumping to Ben Fiore as well, who I believe it briefly got in front of Bosman, but Bosman now back in front. So these two have been going back and forth along with Dan Schneider for a while now.
Yeah, Bosman and Fiore were showing contact. Richard Laird under yellow flag. He went off track in that Porsche. Looks like he went wide after the old hairpin. And we see Christian Comare is in the pits currently, servicing that Ferrari.
Let me jump back here. I want to see if Richard Laird is still on dry tires. Richard, one of the drivers, yes, Richard is on dry tires, and he is struggling right now. Conditions up to damp, and with conditions expected to get worse in the next 10 minutes. He is, I'm sure, struggling like mad to keep grip, and that's not going to get better anytime soon. So may have been a risky strategy call for Richard Laird that simply didn't pay off. On board with Hamling now, who, as you mentioned, has been creeping up on Brenham, and finally we may see Brenham showing his race craft along with the pace that he's shown that's been strong all season so far.
Absolutely. Ben Fiore was under yellows for a little bit, so that gives him a little bit of breathing room up to Dan Schneider. I'm sure Dan Schneider is appreciative of that. But yes, Hamling right up onto the back of Brenham as they have been catching up to these back markers. Jorge Esteban moving offline there, but yeah, very close battle. Top three is separated by just 1 second right now. This is the kind of racing we've been hoping for on Bez Racing Team Season 3. This is very exciting.
Oh, it certainly is. We've got close deltas all across the track, and no more exciting, like you said, than the fight for the lead. We've had two pretty quiet race wins so far. Laguna Seca, Brenham in second place, showing solid pace, but not quite being able to keep up with Murray until Murray spun off, took damage, and Brenham said, "Thank you very much." Race 2, Brenham showing great pace, but again, not quite the pace of Murray until Murray, for whatever reason, he says he got on track, he clicked the drive button, but he had to start from the pits for reasons he didn't understand. Brenham saying, "Thank you very much" one more time, and a nice easy, quiet win for him as he, again, just drove off into the distance. Better pace than everyone but Murray, but didn't have to fight with Murray to get that position. So now, finally, Brenham showing good pace, but having to make sure he keeps himself clean right now, because he is in danger. Any mistake is going to drop him from first place down to third. And that is a new situation for him in this race. Hamling showing a little more pace right on the back of him. We're going to have to see who's able to keep their wits about them.
Absolutely. And a while ago, we looked at Christian Comare in the pits. He's still in there. He is approaching 200 seconds stationary, so I assume he is servicing a good amount of damage.
That might be him, CJP Cloud, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it is.
He started chatting in chat as soon
Dang.
as the car went in the pits.
Yep.
That is the end of the race for Christian as well. Another driver bites the dust. Very sad for him. One thing we missed, David Sparks ahead of Hamling. Not sure when exactly that happened, but we do have a new second place driver. Hamling must have made a mistake. Not sure, like I said, when it happened.
Yeah, I think it was on the exit of Coppice. Looks like Hamlin
Hey.
didn't get a good exit. By the time they get to the S's, that is Sparks up into P2.
Wow. So the front runners, all as we mentioned, any little mistake is going to be dropping you positions when you're driving that close with your competitors. And there are big points on the line for our top drivers. Oh no! And we're still on replay. I don't think I can jump over yet. But Hamling down in 5th place.
Oh, he's pitting.
Did he just pit? I hope it was just a pit. Okay,
Yes.
well, never mind. I got worked up for now.
I think he's just going to try and get undercut Brunham and Sparks, try and maybe hope he finds some clear air where he can show off his pace, see if he can reclaim, or I guess claim for the first time, P1 once Brunham and Sparks make their respective stops. But you were mentioning that the rain is going to be increasing. I wonder if pitting now is going to be detrimental later on, knowing that with increased rain, that's going to decrease the temperature and decrease the pressures. I wonder if that is going to end up hurting some of our early stoppers.
It certainly could. One other thing to consider is that with the more rain on track, lap times are going to decrease, whereas the time you spend in the pits is linear. So if Brenham and Sparks are able to put down these 135, 130, what is their last time? 134 flats for both Brenham and Sparks. Once the rain picks up, if those lap times jump into the 135s, then when we have Hamling driving on track doing 135s, it's going to be Brenham and Sparks doing the 134 nows that are going to be stationary, sort of secluded and protected from those slower lap times. Might mean that Hamling eventually comes out of the pits even farther down than he originally was.
Hold up, I don't see Hamling.
Oh no!
I don't see
We are down
Hamling in
to
here
22
anymore.
drivers.
I can't find him in my list.
That is another. I think that is another driver out of this race.
I really wonder what happened there.
He showed as yellow, and I don't think drivers normally show as yellow going into the pits.
Do you mind if I go onto a manual replay and try and go back to when he disconnected?
We can certainly do that. Just want to make a quick note of Eli Poe getting past Carl Nordell. Up into P3 for Eli Poe, taking advantage of the situation. But yes, certainly, if you want to make a quick jump into the replay, we can see what happened to Hamling.
So we're on with Hamling right now. So he comes into the pits. He's stopping. He is stationary. He gets going. I wonder if maybe he sped into the pit lane and got a penalty and just decided to call it quits because he's up and going.
He's going. He's fine.
Oh, that's he was gone. Let me.
Must have been a connection issue for him. Off screen, we've got Steve Poe going into the pits, so another driver in the pits. I believe Dan Schneider in the pits as well. So a couple drivers making those decisions, but yeah, it's very strange. But it seems like we have lost Hamling. May have been a connection issue. Really, really sad stuff there, because that does mean that our fight for the top 3 positions becomes a fight for the top 2 positions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was going to be really exciting, seeing if he could make something work with the undercut.
Yes, I believe we started with at least 28 drivers
I think
at
so
the
as well.
start of this race, down to 22. Very, very deadly race. The conditions, the internet, many reasons for drivers to be dropping out. So sad stuff there, but we do still have 22 drivers out here. Some good battles going on. Carl Nordell trying to keep up with Eli Poe. We've got Murray, as usual, making his way back into the top positions, currently in 6th. He's a driver that we haven't really looked at, but he's blink and you miss it. He went from 11th place all the way to 6th and still climbing. Last lap, a 34.5, which is right in line with our fastest drivers. Faster than Sparks, faster than Eli Poe, faster than Carl Nordell. The only driver really matching pace, interestingly enough, is Oysten Brenham, putting down 34 flats. He seems comfortable in these conditions right now. And Ivan Watson. Last lap was a 34.7, so another one of the few drivers in the 34s. Ruffo showing good pace, and Jorge Esteban also showing very good pace. So a couple drivers sprinkled throughout the grid, putting down good lap times, and that might mean that we'll see some recovery drives in the back half of this race.
Yeah, and while Hamlin has been gone, David Sparks has fallen off Brenham, now 2.3 back. So seemed that he had the pace when he was following Hamlin, but as soon as Hamlin left the picture, Sparks has been falling off a little bit. But yeah, now we're on with Nate Byrne. Last lap, a 35.3. And Eli Poe is in the pits now. But yeah,
I think that's the Eli Poe in the pits is definitely going to be something to watch for, because Eli and Carl Nordell were in a big fight for P3. Eli Poe took the position. Nordell started fighting back, and I think that's when Poe made the decision to get in the pits. He's currently on his way out. We'll have to see if Carl Nordell responds with a pit stop of his own, or if he thinks with the clear air he can make up the time simply on track. It's tough to say. Drivers don't have the information we do, so it's hard for them to determine which driver's going faster than the other. It's really just down to gut feeling, and we'll see which driver's gut feeling is correct once Nordell goes into the pits.
And Johansson, I saw, just rejoined. So we're back up to 23 drivers, but Johansson is going to be sitting in the pits for a good while. It does make you serve a quasi-penalty when you disconnect and rejoin. So yeah, interesting to see him back in. I wonder if he actually will go back out on track, or if he's just here to watch.
What penalty is it, sorry?
Yes, and he's currently, it shows him in 22nd place, and I wonder if we can see how many laps down he would be. Johansson has done 16 laps, whereas our current fastest drivers are on their 25th lap.
Oof.
Not really something you can come back from. Even the 21st place driver, Kenji Tan, in the pits right now is on his 22nd lap. So that is 4 laps you'd have to make up. I mean, you can certainly go and drive and have some fun out there, but I don't think it's going to put you into any points positions anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
More drivers coming into the pits here. Ben Fiore, Marcus Murray. Ben Fiore, one of the drivers on dry tires. I think he's hopefully come to his senses. And Murray in the pits as well. Gonna be another driver to keep an eye on to see if he's able to fight back up into these top positions.
Absolutely. Carl Nordell still about 16 seconds off of P2. David Sparks still about 2 seconds off of P1. So drivers seem to be falling into a bit of a rhythm, falling into their gaps. Christian saying that Kenji pitted because his engine exploded.
Oh, and that's... It's something that happens really... engine damage is something that isn't talked about a lot in ACC. But these cars, they all come equipped with I'm going to call it surge protection. Each car is designed to go up to a certain rev limit. It can vary between the cars. Some cars have very high rev limits. Some cars have very low rev limits. All based on the engine, the car. Every car can be fast on their respective rev limits. Now, most times, if you just spam the downshift button while you're in 6th gear, it's not going to let you downshift. Maybe it'll let you go to 5th, not going to let you go to 4th. The only exception to that is if you are on the curb in the wet, usually in the wet. It can happen in other times, but basically if you lose grip at the same time that you are downshifting, the car thinks that you are at a lower rev than you actually are. The electronics that determine this limiter think you are going slower than you are, and it'll let you downshift. So if immediately after that you get back onto the asphalt and you regain your grip, you'll be in a lower gear and the car will shoot up in the revs, causing your engine to take damage. So again, it's not something you see very often, but you can see it in wet conditions such as these. And Kenji, it seems, may have dealt with that exact issue because he is out of this race. He's he's not out of this race. He's still driving. I shouldn't say that, but he is down 2 laps on 20th place. So I'm sure he's not going to be happy driving that car right now.
Yeah, and I was just looking into the Discord chat. Hamling said that his game crashed on him, and that's why he spontaneously disconnected. So you hate to see that, and it looks like he will not be coming back to rejoin here.
You really do. Now, this is going to be a key time in the race because we've got Brenham, Sparks, Watson, Nordell all in the pits right now. We've got Murray and Eli Poe who have already pit. Now is the time where we see where these strategies, who's the benefactors, who made the mistakes. Ruffo currently in first place, but yet to pit. Same as Nate Byrne, yet to pit. But Brenham or Sparks coming out into 4th place. Brenham in 3rd place. And that means Eli Poe has actually, I believe, made up a little bit of time on Sparks. 6 seconds back. Nordell has lost time to Eli Poe. So Nordell, or I should say Eli Poe, making the correct decision to pit early. Now 5 seconds in front of Eli Poe, whereas before his pit stop, Eli was only about a second in front of Nordell and fighting tooth and nail. We've been told Sparks has a stop go 30.
And he just went off.
Sparks, oh no, Sparks. That is horrible. Yes, that is David Sparks, currently the holder of the fastest lap in 4th place. And net P2 with a stop go 30 for speeding in the pits. Devastating stuff for Sparks. And once again,
he did the Tyler Babin move from earlier, getting in the AstroTurf and losing the rear.
Jeez.
Especially on new tires, that is going to be very costly.
And you know what this means, Stephen? Oyston Brenham.
GG.
With no competition currently. He's again 19.2 seconds away from the net 3rd place. Nate Byrne yet to pit. Ruffo yet to pit. Brenham just he just keeps looking around, wondering why everyone out there is dying in front of him. It's just going to be. I mean, there was a little bit of pressure on him, certainly from Hamling, as he's trying to get past the back marker.
I think that's Steve Poe.
That might be Steve Poe. Steve Poe not letting him by without a bit of a fight, but Brenham able to get by. Yeah, that's it. Brenham with if he doesn't make a mistake here, this is going to be a pretty simple win for him.
Yeah, I mean we were talking about it earlier. He's clean. He's consistent. He was genuinely leading after some mistakes from the leaders, but. It looked like Hamling definitely would have been in contention, Sparks as well, but Hamling disconnecting, Sparks with not only a stop go 30, but making a mistake heading up towards Coppice. I mean, that just gifted Brenham a win. As long as he can keep it clean for the next 29 minutes, it'll be a 3rd win in a row for Mr. Brenham.
Yeah, it's and you know what, Christian? You're right. Brenham is a very good driver. I mean, what else do you say? He hasn't put a foot wrong all season so far. I mean, I don't think I've seen so much as a spin from him. He is fast. He is consistent. He seems calm. I mean, what more do you ask for? Drivers are either crumbling or drivers' internet connections are crumbling around him. We'll see. Ooh,
he's pushing. He's pushing.
You don't need to be pushing, but you know what? It would be a lot more fun for the storyline if you spun. So please keep doing it. Yeah, he's fast. Don't know what else to say. Gosh darn it! This is a family show, so I'll say gosh darn it. Gosh darn it, Brenham. Make a mistake, please. Let us have some fun. We'll jump over to somebody else here. Brenham, you just go. You go win your race.
I was gonna say, could you check on Sparks quick? Because he isn't showing a delta. Okay, so
Nope,
he
Sparks
is
good.
going. It's just not showing him a delta. I wonder if that's because Nate Byrne ahead of him is in the pits. That was the issue. So now Byrne has left the pits. Sparks is showing a delta. I was concerned that he had gone to the pits or something, but no. Unfortunately, with do you know if he's served his stop go 30?
Let's go take a look. He has served his stop
Okay.
go 30. Another driver, actually, Peters, has a stop go 30 in 15th place.
No.
I'm imagining for the same reason.
Mhm.
That is really too bad for him.
Yeah, and that's going to let Ben Fiore, once Peter served that, Ben Fiore will be back in the lead of the AM class. And Kurt Peters is in.
Yes, Kurt Peters in the pits. One thing we should mention, Joe Hansen, 6 laps down, but still trucking along. After I believe it was a connection issue, pushed him out of this race. He had a game crash. Too many incidents.
It was Hamlin with the game crash. I think Johansson did have a connection issue.
Johansson with the connection issue, and back at it. And I mean, if you look at the board on the left side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pro drivers currently. So there are still points on the board. Although actually, I take that back because the pro drivers are scored on the overall board only. So Johansson out there simply to have some fun, and isn't that the reason why we all play this excellent game? So Johansson trucking along in 22nd place. That position is not going to change anytime soon. So we will leave him to have some fun on track and jump on to Oysten Brenham, who now is officially fighting with Ruffo for first place. But remember, Ruffo has not pit yet. Brenham going to be on new tires. Some clean driving there. I think Ruffo just having a little bit of fun. Both drivers staying safe, giving space. Fun little battle, and Brenham now the official and uncontested P1 for this race. So again, big race for him yet again.
Absolutely. Vigard was just under yellows again. He's showing slow. I wonder if his little time away reconnecting has left him on the back foot in terms of readjusting to this damp. Or is it wet now? Is the track wet now?
Well, you know what, Stephen? That is an excellent question. It is damp.
It is still
damp. It is
damp.
only damp. 25 minutes left in this race, and we are not going to see any increase in the race or in the rain. 10 minutes from now, it's going to be consistent. 30 minutes from now, so when the race ends, it's going to be going down a little bit. But we are going to have damp conditions the entire way through. Tricky conditions for sure, but I'm sure these drivers are happy that they're not going to be seeing it get worse.
Absolutely.
Ruffo jumping out into 8th place. I believe he is the last of the pitters. That is not true, actually. It looks like Macy still has to do their pit stop, although that is incorrect. No, Macy has done their pit stop. Funny enough, Johansson, the only driver not to do their pit stop so far. So for all of the drivers really in contention so far, it is just is everyone done with their pits. The positions you're seeing on the board is what's going to be staying. Unless drivers such as Marcus Murray are able to make some overtakes. And why don't we go on board with Murray here? See if he can get this move down on Ivan Watson.
Absolutely. I'm sure, I think Murray definitely has the pace. Let me try and pull up Watson's last lap. So we have that comparison. Murray almost a full second faster than Watson this last lap. I think it's just a matter of time before Murray is going to be able to jump up and claim that P4.
And, normally I would agree with you. It is wet. Wet conditions definitely make it a little bit trickier to get the overtake done. Watching the rear view camera of Ivan Watson at this moment, with Murray, the very aggressive looking Honda, just bearing down on him. As usual, we've seen for 2 races in a row now, Murray just a very angry looking driver making his way past, I want to say slower drivers, but many fast drivers that just can't compete with Murray's awesome pace. Now, we'll see here, and this is another thing that happens in the wet. Murray now 0.8 seconds back, not able to keep right onto the back of him as consistent as you might be able to in the dry. Definitely need to leave a bit of room for error, but out of Coppice, that is Murray coming right beside him. Let's see if we can catch... Oh, where is he now? I believe he is on the outside, so let's switch to a better camera. And that is Nordell, I believe, taking a cut in order to
That was Murray. Or, sorry, Watson.
Position. Sorry, Watson, having to take a cut to keep his position. Now we're 3 wide. Little bit of a tap. Haukeba, out of nowhere, able to get past both Murray and Ivan Watson. Very fun fight going on here. All 3 slotting in line. Haukeba, then Nordell, then Murray in 6th place. So certainly, even with all of the spins at the start, the very sad connection losses, we're getting a very fun fight here for some top positions. Big points up for grabs, 4th, 5th, and 6th place.
Yeah, I'm sure Murray won't be too happy with that. Both his and Watson's laps were in the 37.5s. Hackable with a 34.2. So I think Murray was just trying to do the gentlemanly thing. He was sticking behind Watson, staying safe after Watson might have had a couple of maybe like half spins or off-track moments that slowed him down. But Magnus was not looking to be polite. He saw the opportunity and seized, stole 2 places and is up into P4 and crucially separates himself a little bit more from Jorge Esteban, who is currently in P7, but P2 in the silver class.
And definitely silver class is going to be an interesting one to watch. One thing I do want to note as well, though, Marcus Murray, fastest lap currently, 133.41. Magnus Haukeba, 133.15. So a fastest lap than Marcus Murray. So definitely no slouch as we see him. Have to catch just a little bit of a slide there, a little bit of a moment. But no, Haukeba, no slouch, putting down some good pace in these wet conditions. Definitely going to be interesting as he's continuing to make way or make space between himself and Ivan Watson.
Absolutely. Branham for a second there was showing going slow, but I don't think he lost anything on the Delta. But when did Carl get up to P2? What happened to Eli Poe?
That is a great question. Eli Poe was in P2. He was about 5 seconds ahead of Nordell after Nordell came out of the pits. But it seems, oh no, and we're going to jump over to Marcus Murray. Okay, so it looks like maybe just no crash, no spin. Just having to go a bit slow to maybe make some avoiding action against Ivan Watson. He was right on the back of him at this moment. But yes, I'm imagining Eli Poe maybe put a foot wrong because he's now 11 seconds back from Nordell, so it may have been a spin. Definitely some issues for Poe that puts him down into 3rd place, and that also means that Magnus Haukeba, who's currently putting on some great pace, a 34 flat for him and a 36.797 for Poe last lap. This might put Haukeba in contention for a podium position. Another driver in our chat with connection issues ruining their race. It's really sad stuff to see all of these drivers in the chat. What's at a detriment to them does mean we've got more viewers in chat than I've seen since we started streaming. So hello to everyone who's had a terrible race. Glad you can make it, and sorry that you have the opportunity to watch. But it is nice to have an audience here.
Yeah, Hamling, we were really excited to hopefully see you potentially undercut Oisin Brenham for P1. It was going to be an exciting race. We were talking about it, and then all of a sudden you were gone, and we were very confused. So, yeah, really sorry that the game crashed for you when you were having such a great race up towards the top.
Yes, that would have been a very fun fight to watch, especially now with Sparks out of contention. Sparks in 9th place and fighting with Ruffo. Looks like maybe to make a jump to 8th place. And we can go on board with him just quickly in turn 1. And it looks like Ruffo maybe caught a little bit of the curb. So this might be a run, but it's not an easy place to make a run on somebody. So coming into turn 4, braking early, nice and safe, using the curbs a little bit and catching some overspin or some oversteer. So this is Sparks right on the back of Ruffo, hoping to make a move somewhere here. We'll try to keep the camera on this side of the car, the left side of the car. Oh, and that is a very good exit here. They're running down into what is it? Coppa's Corner. And
Did I
that
go
is
for it?
Sparks.
Did I send it? Or did
with
I?
a very
Oh,
nice move
didn't
on
send it.
Ruffo.
Oh,
through
send
Coppa's. Great overtake for him.
Absolutely. Definitely a wonderful move. Not typically an overtaken spot, but when the driver ahead of you goes wide, doesn't get the ideal line, maybe has to check up a little bit. Definitely a time for you to make your mark and stake your claim for that position, and that is exactly what Sparks has done. But unfortunately, he's still quite a ways off where he would want to be based on his pace this race.
Yes, definitely agree with you there. Back on board with Murray, who's continuing to cling to the back of Ivan Watson. He's going to want to get past ASAP. Ivan really holding back Murray's pace. Haukeba now 5 seconds in front of Watson, and that pace or that difference continues to climb. Murray trying to maybe make a little bit of a switch back here, get some release. He does seem to have a bit of a run. Coppa's Corner again. We just said it's a tricky turn to make a move, and they are side by side here. It looks like Watson might have gotten a bit of a better run on the outside, which is typically why we don't see the overtake working, but very nice racing and good on Murray to try. I mean, he's gonna need to make a move here if he wants to be battling with Haukeba for fourth place, and even with 15 minutes left, might be time to make it up to Eli Poe, who seems to be struggling a little bit for third place.
Definitely. You mentioned Haukeba. I think he has been closing in on Eli Poe, but more importantly, with this battling, just a little bit ago, you mentioned that Ivan was 5 seconds behind Haukeba. That's almost 7 seconds now. So both of Ivan and Murray are losing quite a bit of time trying to fight each other for P5. As we see, Charlie Thornton has gone off track. That Audi, I think that's the same corner that he has lost it 3 or 4 times this race. That Audi really not set up well to handle that fast right-hander that is the old hairpin.
Certainly agree with you there. It's a tricky track, as we've been saying over and over and over again. And some drivers just able to handle it. Some drivers able to set up their car to handle it better than others. On board here with Richard Laird. Richard, as we talked about him a little earlier in the race, one of the few drivers to try dry tires. He, even after an early pit stop in the greasy conditions just before it jumped up to damp, he decided to throw on some slicks again. Cost him a lot of time, and eventually when he did go back into the pits for wets, did drop him into the 20s, but since then, so we see him making a nice move on the outside there on Ben Fiore. He's picked up the pace, certainly based on our midfield drivers. He's right up in there for for the drivers up to even 14th, 13th positions. So putting on a good show for us, and that is 16th position currently for Richard Laird.
Yep. Murray, it looks like, has gotten by. I think this is a carbon copy of what we saw last lap, but it looks. Oh no, this is into Goddard's.
That was so. Yes, that was into Melbourne. I'm imagining that.
No,
Marcus
Goddard's.
Murray was able to make the move. I get well, and it continued, I should say, into Goddard's. And that is Ivan wanting to maybe push himself into turn one, realizes that's maybe not the best decision, and concedes the spot. That is Marcus Murray currently in P5, and he's now going to have a bit of work ahead of him to make up his position to Magnus Haukeba. Magnus now holding kind of steady, 3.4 back, as we have. I believe that is Macy, who has gone off briefly. We also have Kenji Tan and Vigard Johansson, so lots of drivers who have all just gone off, still not comfortable in these conditions. But as I was saying, Haukeba holding steady on Eli Poe right now, about 3.6 seconds. So the gap no longer closing down. Maybe Poe realizing he's got to pick up the pace.
Yeah, it seems to be very contrasting fortunes for any Audi driver this race. We have, of course, seen Magnus having a phenomenal race up into P4, P1 in the silver class. He is absolutely flying in that Audi, but then we've seen Charlie Thornton, we've seen Kieran Macy, all in the Audi, but those two drivers have not been able to find any sort of grip or pace out on track today. So, really wonder if that comes up to setup or skill or comfortability in the wet. I know Magnus did get a lot of practice last weekend with us at the ACCSS 24 hours of Spa. He was in the car for a good amount of wet running, albeit in the McLaren, but I wonder if that did help him practice for some changeable conditions like we're seeing here today.
Very changeable conditions seen in that 24-hour race. Certainly a difficult one to navigate. And yes, the more time you spend driving in the wet, it's definitely, there are so many similarities to the dry running, but those key differences that it just takes a lot of time to get used to, and maybe that is part of the reason that Haukeba is able to keep his car in fourth place, top of the silvers. We're on board with David Sparks coming up behind Jorge Esteban, wanting to make a move here. One thing we should note: David Sparks still has the fastest lap. He has a 132.315.
Dang.
Now, I just want to make sure you all know second place, Oysten Brenham, 30 seconds up on second place. His fastest lap is a 32.7, so that's 4/10 slower than David Sparks. Sparks has been an absolute machine out here. Again, just highlights how unfortunate it is that he got that stop-go 30. Even with that penalty, in seventh place, maybe not enough time to catch up to Ivan Watson, but really just highlights as he is able to get past Jorge Esteban. I believe Jorge made a bit of a mistake there.
He did. Yep.
That is a very good drive for him. Something he can be happy about. Certainly going to be disappointed with how it ended, or what happened. But the pace is definitely something to be happy about.
Yeah, but I mean, at least I think some of our drivers today we saw. One name that comes to mind is Tyler Babin. He was one that got caught up on some incidents, got hit, lost control of his car. That I think you can be frustrated, but be able to at least partially blame some of the other drivers around you and incidents that happened through no fault of your own. For David Sparks, I mean, it was just everything happened under his own volition. I believe speeding into the pit lane, garnering a stop-go 30. He then lost it on his outlap. I mead those are all his own mistakes. So, no one, unfortunately, to blame except for himself there. But at least he can have his head held high, knowing that it wasn't other drivers that ruined his race for him,
Certainly a good point. And bring your attention back to the race where we've got Nate Byrne and Ruffo in a very fun fight through Sector 1 into Sector 2. Very, very nice move for Nate Byrne. Nate currently third in the silver class, 12 seconds back on Jorge Esteban. And of course, as mentioned, Magnus Haukeba having a great race. But a little bit of fun still to be had, even in the middle positions. Nate Byrne up to 9th, Ruffo still in 10th, and 1,915 seconds back from him is Razvan McAvey. I don't think that is exactly accurate, but I don't even really know what to say about that. I think we're having some technical difficulties with our tracker. The rest of the times are correct. I don't believe he is 19,000 seconds back.
Yeah, that has been just counting up for the longest time. I'm not sure exactly why that is happening for Razvan, but yeah.
Pick up the pace, man. Come on. I mean, there's, we have these classes for a reason, and AM class might not even be the class for him. We should make just a brown class. Not even gold, silver, or bronze, but brown class, just for McAvey and his 2,000 second gap to the other drivers out here.
Yeah. Just for fun, I calculated what that would be in terms of number of laps. 19, I guess we're looking at 1983 right now. That would be equivalent to about 22 laps right now, and he is certainly not 22 laps behind our leaders.
No, that, in fact, not even Christian Comare, who dropped out of this race almost halfway through, he wouldn't even be 2,000 seconds back of the 22nd place driver. He would be about 2,000 seconds back from Oyston Brenham, Carl Nordell, our leaders. So take of that what you will. I think it's important to mention here, no, McAvey is not that slow. McAvey is driving just fine here in 11th place. Very solid position for him, 4th of silvers.
I had done a time comparison. It changed since you moved us over to Ruffo, but Magnus Hakobo was 8/10 faster than Eli Poe in P3 that last lap, so only 2.6 seconds behind right now is Hakobo. Like you mentioned earlier, could be on for challenging for an overall podium position in this race as we just crossed the 7-minute mark.
That could end up being a very exciting finish. We have to hope. We do see our drivers splitting up. The gaps are getting wider and wider as drivers are settling into their pace. McAvey now getting past Ruffo. So I say that just as McAvey, who was 2,000 seconds back, immediately makes up all of that time to overtake Ruffo. Ruffo now 2,000 seconds back. Not sure. Maybe he's been driving backwards this whole time, and we just didn't notice it. But
I think it's just that P11 is cursed.
That P11 is not looking good. I believe the gap is 2 seconds. The gap is 2.1 seconds. Funny enough, it's telling me on my other screen 12th place is 2,100 seconds back. Poe is 12.7 seconds. So we do have all the information just fractured among different screens. So take of that what you will, but just Ruffo about 2 seconds back on Razvan McAvey, who was able to make a nice move, bump himself into the 10th position, the final points position overall, and a very nice drive for him and a couple of our silver drivers.
So Dan Schneider, you just went on board with. Man, another Audi driver. We were talking about the struggles that Audi drivers have been facing. And Dan Schneider, another Audi driver who has not been able to come to grips with that German-engineered machine around Donington today. But Magnus Hakobo in that Audi at car number 95, still flying up in P4, getting ever closer and closer to Eli Poe.
Yes, gap now under or just around 2.3 seconds with 4.5 minutes left. So roughly, Stephen, what we're looking at about 3, maybe 4 laps left. We've got a current gap of about 4/10 between Hakobo and Poe's fastest laps. In fact, wow, it has actually jumped because we see Hakobo has now put down a 32.99, and we can, or I can see that Poe has put down a 34.12 in his last lap. So that's a 1.13 second difference. Which is definitely enough to get him onto the back of Eli Poe by the end of this race. One thing I think we can note, and if we jump over to Poe's screen, if we go to the rear camera, you can see Hakobo in the background there, still 2.1 seconds in cars moving this fast. It looks like a big gap, but it's a gap that could, at any moment, just creeps smaller and smaller. Though that being said, Hakobo may have put a foot wrong. Maybe Poe picked up the pace. The gap has increased by 0.3 just in the first 2 sectors. So maybe Poe's realizing, hey, I got to go a little bit faster here.
I think it might be Magnus making a couple errors in places, because I think a couple laps ago, I think the gap had gone down to about 2 seconds, and then it jumped up to about 3.5 when we picked it up again. So I think Magnus might be trying a little bit too hard in certain places to get that gap down, and it's ultimately costing him time.
But we'll see what happens as they're coming around the Goddard's corner. We'll be able to see their brand new fresh lap times. That is a 1:32.772.
You might be right. I think it's Poe up in the pace.
Yes. Now, the lap was invalid. I'm not sure what the condition is in terms of warnings. It does not tell us if any drivers have warnings or not. So we'll just have to hope for these drivers' sake that they don't have any track warning limits to be worried about right now. But it's certainly going to be interesting to see if Poe's able to keep that pace up. It's pace he hasn't really had this race. His fastest valid lap, at 33.21. So that 32.7 is new to what we've seen from him. So maybe that means he's pushing as hard as he can. And we all know in these conditions, pushing too hard, things can go wrong. So with only 2.5 minutes left, we'll have to see the strategy these two drivers employ and how far they're willing to go to keep or fight for that third place.
Absolutely. We are looking at I'm looking at. Car 63 is currently just passing. He got done with the old hairpin a few seconds ago. So I believe when he crosses the line, I believe it'll be 2 laps to go once he crosses. So just a couple minutes for Magnus to catch up. But yeah, that gap down to 2 seconds now. Really spicy ending to this race.
Yeah, certainly shaping up to hopefully give us some action at the end. Again, Oyston Brenham, I love you, but you're just too consistent. You're too gosh darn consistent. If things don't go wrong for him right away, this could be, after this lap and one more, this could be a third consecutive win for Oyston Brenham. And what a start to the season for him. Really, just bravo, Brenham. It's maybe I shouldn't be saying that with a lap left, but what drives we've seen from him. It's been incredible to watch. Just again, with every other driver, making mistakes, making errors. He's been able to qualify well, which has kept him out of those the lap one craziness that we've seen so often. And he's kept that pace up through the race, which means that when the opportunity to take that top position comes...
I think that was Poe making a mistake. I think he clicked away just as... it looked like he lost the rear, or slid the rear a little bit.
Okay. So again, maybe the tire's wearing a little bit, but... I'm spending a little too much time gushing over Oyston Brenham when we've still got a bit of race to do. So, regardless, Oyston Brenham, we'll go back to him once the race is over. Great drive for him, but we've got Haukeba, who has now just crossed the line into turn 1. This is his last lap and his last chance to make up positions. We also do see David Sparks, 1 second to Ivan Watson. So that's one we're going to have to keep an eye on. Certainly two potential last lap overtakes that are possible here. David Sparks, as we've mentioned before, has the fastest lap, 32.357. Really fast stuff for him. And maybe he'll be able to make some magic in the last corner, the last lap.
And Brenham flashing as he crosses the line, takes a win. About 37 seconds ahead of Carl Nordell in P2. Great drive from him. But yeah, David Sparks has closed the gap, now 0.2 seconds away from Watson. This is the last lap. He doesn't have a lot of corners to make it happen, but gets a pretty good run coming up into Coppice. Has a look up the inside, but files back in. Cuts a little bit. I don't know if that's going to really help his exit speed here. Watson, we saw when battling Murray a few laps ago, has a lot of speed coming onto this straight before the S's.
Yes.
So Watson currently leading, but Sparks right behind. Sparks really only has 2 opportunities coming into the Melbourne hairpin and then Goddard's, but really just not close enough. Watson going, defending.
I wouldn't say he's not close enough because we see here he's tried for the inside. We've seen Watson defend on the inside. Sparks going on the outside. Now that did, of course, mean he had to take the long way around, and he's trying it one more time, maybe for the switchback here. And he's got a lot of speed coming out of that corner, but does catch the curb, and that ruins any momentum he had, which does mean Ivan Watson is going to hold that position for P6. David Sparks, after a stop go 30, still able to crawl up to P7. Good race for him, and a fun end to this one.
Yeah. I don't think unless Sparks had gotten a better exit out of Coppice, I really don't think there was any chance that he had of catching Ivan. Ivan kept it calm, cool, and collected, going through the S's and gumming into the final two hairpins. So great defensive driving from Watson all race, battling Murray and Sparks. But yeah, Murray also up into P5. I think that might have been where he qualified.
I believe you are correct. So, Marcus, after another tumultuous start, into some solid points positions, he's currently P2 in the standings. If we take a quick look, ignoring the penalties that may or may not be coming, Murray currently, before this race, in second place with 31 points. Nordell in third place with 27 points, but Nordell finishing in third and Marcus Murray finishing in fifth. So I believe that will put Nordell, if I'm not mistaken, that will put Nordell into second place in the overall standings. Murray dropping down to third place, and I believe that's as far as he will drop. David Sparks will definitely be jumping Tyler Babin, who had a very, very poor start and DNF'd from this race early on. So that will be David Sparks moving up into fifth place, maybe fourth place. I believe he gets... how many points does he get for seventh place? Would that be 8? No. Help me out here, Steven. How many points is he going to get?
For Sparks?
For seventh place. That might be 8 points.
I think, okay, so 10 gets 1, 9 gets 2. I think 8th gets 4. I think 7th gets 6.
Okay. Well, regardless, whether it's 6 or 8, that will be Sparks jumping Babin and, I believe, Hamling for that fourth place. And a very, very good drive for him, given these circumstances. I think it's still one that maybe he could be happy about.
Yeah, I think so. Just making the best of the cards that he got dealt. Really be interesting to see also what ends up happening in terms of like you mentioned, pending penalties. There were definitely a good number of incidents that the stewards are going to have to review, so that will also be affecting not only results here, but could also be potentially affecting qualifying at our next race, which that is going to be at Barcelona. That is going to be our first endurance race. So that is going to be, I believe it is let's take a look at our season overview. It's going to be a 105-minute race. So that is an hour and 45 minutes instead of an hour and 15 is what we're going to see at Barcelona in 2 weeks' time. So that'll be exciting. I think qualifying, if you miss out there, it could definitely hurt you. So again, just be interesting to see what ends up happening coming out of the stewards room.
It definitely will be, Stephen. An hour 45 definitely it changes the dynamics of the race. You can't hide behind fresh tires when you have to be driving for that long. You're going to have to go long on at least one of your sets. We're gonna have to see how these drivers are able to handle worn tires. It's going to be more fuel. It means more opportunities for screwing up. Your pit stops, not fueling enough. Maybe drivers will get scared, fuel too much, and have a little too much weight to carry themselves through. So there's a lot of interesting decisions that we will have to be keeping an eye out for when these drivers take to Barcelona in, I believe it is 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, Barcelona. Also, I mean, it's a track that has an insane amount of tire wear, especially in Sector 1 with that very fast right-hander. I think that's turn 3. You carry a lot of speed through there. You're asking a lot of the front left tire. And there's just a lot of punishing right-handers that kills the front left, usually end up overheating and with an insane amount of wear. So as you mentioned, yeah, you can't hide behind knowing that you're going to be able to have a pit stop. You are going to be going long, at minimum driving 50 minutes and splitting it up 50-50. Maybe some drivers will try and do like a 30-minute, hour 10. That's going to be terrible. I actually don't think any driver is going to do that. But yeah, longer race that should be opening up a few different pit strategies potentially, depending on how drivers are attacking during the race, how conservative they are in their setups with keeping their tires alive, and overall what the track temperature and conditions are going to be like.
Certainly going to be a fun one. Now, Stephen, I'm just going to ask you now, Oysten Brenham, 3 races, 3 victories, 75 points for him. What do you think it's going to take for these other drivers to catch up to him in the standings and maybe start for us to start seeing some new victors as we go into the following races?
I mean, you say new victors. Are you speaking of Victor Leitchi, who is our resident boo man?
No, I'm speaking victors as
Yeah.
in 3-time Victor Oysten Brenham. We certainly had a different Victor at Spa. Our guest commentator, Victor Leite. I feel like
Leitchi.
I'm pronouncing it wrong. Leitchi. Victor Leitchi. It was always very fun to
Yeah.
have with us in the commentary booth, replacing the lazy Stephen Wallace, who decided that a trip to the Bahamas with his fiance was more important than Bez Racing Team, which I think deserves a Victor Boo on
Yeah.
its own.
Before I answer your question about Brenham, did you also know that leite in Portuguese means milk?
I did not.
So yeah, it is
Wow.
Victor Milk is our backup commentator and our Mr. Boo man. Um, but anywho, going back to what you were saying about Oystein, I mean, we've seen in qualifying. I don't think he has ever gotten pole because we saw Marcus on pole in Spa. We saw Tyler on pole in Laguna. It was who was pole here today?
It was
Tyler. It
Tyler
was
once
Tyler
more.
again. So Tyler with 2 poles, Marcus with 1. Oystein, I think, has consistently been like second, third, fourth, somewhere around there in each of those qualifyings. So again, like we've said, I mean, he's not always the fastest on Saturday in qualifying, but he's just clean and consistent. So I think we need the Murrays, the Babbins, the Hamlings to be able to find that consistency. Or in Hamling's case, I mean, hopefully, he won't experience another game crash in 2 weeks. But I think it really is just about car placement on lap 1, staying clean, not getting involved in incidents, knowing the limits of the car on that first lap, not trying to go too wide or go on the astroturf, especially in these wet conditions. I think Brenham is just able to know exactly where the limits are. Even in changeable conditions, he's able to adapt very, very quickly to the limits of his car and the limits of the track. I think that's just what we need to see from some of our other top tier drivers in order to stop the absolute domination that we've seen from the Lamborghini driver.
Certainly agree with you there. Oysten Brenham showing a very mature driving style, his racecraft and pace. Been very strong, and we're going to need some strong performances from our other top drivers to compete with him. Stephen, this has been a very fun race. Some tragedy for many of our drivers, either with internet crashes, with game crashes, with car crashes. Lots of attrition that we've seen here. What are your final thoughts on this race before we sign off for today?
Well, I think it was good that we didn't see at least 10 or 20 cars all into the wall or off track at lap 1. We did see a couple of incidents, but a lot of it mostly seemed self-inflicted. So I think the rain was definitely nice to spice things up, give us a nice break from the dry races that we had at Laguna and at Spa. But I'm sure the drivers here will be hoping for as much dry running as possible in the coming races. So overall, good racing. We saw some good battles, some good fights up the field from some of our drivers that had to recover a little bit from those lap 1 incidents. Magnus Hakaba, absolutely wonderful silver class win, almost getting that P3 towards the end of the race. Just phenomenal driving. Glad to see some better racecraft up and down the field compared to our first couple of races.
Certainly agree with you there. And one more time, that is Oysten Brenham with the overall race win and the Pro Class race win. Magnus Haukeba in 4th place is our Silver Class victor. And as you said, a fantastic drive from him, almost getting a podium position. And in our AM class, bunched up in 17th, 18th, and 19th, that's Ben Fiore in 1st, and Peters and Prevost in those final 2 positions. Peters and Prevost only finishing a couple seconds away from each other, so certainly some good fighting in the AM class as well. So congrats to all of our class winners. Congrats to our overall podium placers. That is Brenham, Nordell, and Eli Poe. And yes, as you said, great race here today, and hopefully we'll see some great racing tomorrow I should say on November 12th as well.
Well, great racing tomorrow, hopefully in Formula One. Qualifying starts in 3 minutes. I definitely want to go watch that.
I will talk to you later, Stephen. I did not realize it hadn't started yet. Thank you all so much for watching. We're very happy to have all of these viewers here. Of course, the reasons many of you were watching, quite unfortunate, but to anyone who decides to watch the race back later on, thanks for stopping by. For all of you who are here right now or had jumped on, thanks for stopping by, and we will hopefully see you all on November 12th at Barcelona. Have a nice rest of your day, everyone.
See you, everybody.